So as we kind of march toward this season of glad tidings and angels flitting all over the place, it'd be appropriate to talk about angels a little bit, since they showed up in both our first reading and our gospel, and we have this statue of a person with wings here to my right. We'll disillusion you of this, is what I aim to do. There's a reason angels, the very first thing angels say to somebody when they show up is, "Peace be with you, calm down, I'm not here to eat you," right? Because they're terrible creatures. They fight and destroy demons, right? So, imagine a demon and then make it like 100 times worse. That's an angel. Only they're good, right? So that's great. But the immensity of power, the presence of sheer will and domination that they bring, that they sort of like spread out before them. You've heard of somebody who can walk into a room and sort of dominate a room just by walking into it. Imagine this is what an angel does. It's like a flood of just potency that comes in. Even Mary, credulous as she was, believing of the angel as she was still bothered. You've got so many times in the Old Testament where angels show up and people fall over as if they're dead. Right? They didn't actually die, but they're just petrified. Just so scared. Right? And so we have this angel showing up to Zechariah, the angel Gabriel showing up to Zechariah while he's in the Holy of Holies. So he's performing a ministry of worship to God. Right? He's not performing a ministry for the people. There's a twofold action in the Old Testament sort of activity of worshiping God in the temple. This is not the high holy day. This is just like a regular week, worshiping in the temple. You're offering incense. The priest goes in and offers incense. So he's offering what the people have offered to give to God, and then the priest, though, is meant to come out and then give from God the blessing to the people. So from the people, the offering of the incense to God, and then from God, having received the incense and smiling at the smell of the incense and not coughing and hacking up a lung, the priest is sent out to bless the people. So let's see how this unfolds with Zechariah. Zechariah is in there worshiping God, and he's a good man, right? And good men can be punished. Good men can make mistakes, right? Zechariah is an amazing guy. He's a great dude, right? He's in there offering incense. If anybody's going to offer incense, well, it's going to be Zechariah. So everything's going fine. The angel shows up to Zechariah, and he says, "Your wife is going to bear a son." And he basically just says, "Piss off." I mean, he does, and the language there is purposeful to kind of give the response, like to give the energy of the response that Zechariah gives. He's like, "No, she can't." So you have Mary being credulous. You have Zechariah being incredulous, right? Not believing the angel. And this is what he says. He says, "How shall I know this?" Let's see, where is it? How shall I know this? Basically, who are you? Right? He's not believing the credibility of, specifically, he's insulting Gabriel. Like, he's directly insulting Gabriel. "I do not believe you. You are incredible to me. I don't believe your testimony. Who are you to tell me this? Right? Prove it to me. Your word is not enough." He's saying this to an angel. Right? Gabriel responds with this. "Oh, I'm Gabriel, who stand before God. I was sent to speak to you on his behalf, to tell you good news. And this is how you behave? You little ungrateful bipedal terrestrial creature, you. Right? Now you'll be dumb. You won't be able to speak. So there." And Gabriel thumbs his nose at him and flies off. Right? So you have this exchange, and it's really setting up for us what's going to happen with the annunciation of the angel Gabriel, the same angel to Mary. right? You remember the last time Gabriel showed up to somebody, how badly he was treated. Now he's showing up to Mary. He's going to wonder, how is she going to receive this, right? He's not really. He's an angel. He doesn't wonder those things. But we have this this sort of changing of the guard, so to speak. We have the conclusion of and the dimming out of the old covenant, and this explosion of new light of the new covenant coming in. And so it's fitting for the old covenant to kind of be summarized at its conclusion. And its summary from the very beginning has been ingratitude, a lack of trust in God, an obstinacy. There's a reason they're called perfidious Jews, stiff-necked Jews, right? And this is summarizing here kind of the whole history of Israel. God shows up, he splits Red Seas, he splits rocks and water comes out, he pours food down from heaven, and all the people can do is be ungrateful and complain. Oh, would that we were back in Egypt with our flesh pots and leeks and onions, and not have to eat this wretched food out in the desert. This free food that shows up miraculously every day, so we don't even have to do any gardening, right? Passing through the Red Sea, God going before them in a pillar of fire, right? Then coming down on the mountain in such ferocity that only Moses, who had already had an experience of God, a very profound experience of God, could bear to stand the sight. And all the people hid and said, Moses, you go talk to him. We don't want to have anything to do with him. Right? A God who was faithful to bring them into the promised land, a God who saw a temple built and whose presence in the type of a cloud being present in that temple to prove to the people that he was there. All of this, and the people were incredulous and ungrateful. And so here we have the best of them, Zechariah, proving out the sort of sour grapes that had been produced for the Lord in all of his goodness from the vineyard of the promised land, right? Just to prove one last time, I have to do something different. I'm going to do something different. And this is the hinge point, right? John the Baptist is the sort of, if you want, the bolt that goes between the two parts of the hinge. Zechariah on one hand, Mary on the other, and John the Baptist sort of pinning the two together. Where John the Baptist is proclaiming, I must decrease. The old covenant must disappear. And he must increase. The Christ, the Messiah, the one who has come to fulfill all the promises of the old, must increase. Right? This is not an age of incredulity anymore, but an age of receptivity, an age of peaceful trust, an age of fulfillment of promises, an age of peace. So as we sort of abide in this Advent season, and we continue to restrain ourselves from a premature celebration of Christmas, keep yourself in that disposition of, this is what it was like before Jesus. So that when the Christ comes, when we celebrate his coming, we can really celebrate, as John the Baptist celebrated, with great elation, though he was in prison, though he was suffering, though he would soon be beheaded, with great elation, celebrating the coming of the Christ, because it announced the coming of a new, perpetual dawn. Forgot to tell you guys the coolest part of this homily. I was getting around to it. So have a seat for just a second. 2 minutes, I promise. And I had to come back over here because Beth tells me I have to come back over here to finish these recordings so she can kind of sew it together. Anyways, so I mentioned that the priest would go in, offer incense, and then come back out and give the blessing to the people. So Zechariah was in trying to worship God, and it was ineffective ultimately because of his incredulity. And so what was he unable to do when he went in to worship God and then come back out? He was meant to do what? Bless the people, but he was struck. So do you ever wonder why it was mute? Like, why wasn't he blind? Or that's kind of a weird punishment, right? So he was unable to bless the people, to show the old covenant was ineffective, not only in its offering up to God of worship, but also to deliver to God, to God's people the blessing that he had desired for them, which was what? Restoration. Restoration in a way that was far superior to the condition that we lost in original natural beatitude when we were in the garden, right? So Zechariah comes in, can't worship God because he's embodying all of the ridiculousness of the old covenant, and it's a shadow, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong in saying this. The old covenant was meant to be a shadow. It was never meant to be effective, right? And so then he comes back out, and he's unable to do the thing that he's meant to do to bless the people of God. The last thing that happens in the book of Luke, Jesus extends his hands over his disciples, and he blesses them. So you have Luke, the author here, being clever in the way he's writing his gospel. He sets up at the beginning of the gospel, as we are still in the age of the old covenant, it is utterly ineffective. And then at the end of Jesus' ministry, when he has accomplished all that he's meant to accomplish, and he's risen from the dead, and he's about to ascend to his Father, he extends the blessing to the people, the blessing that was withheld for so long, from the beginning of the fall until that moment there, where God himself extends the blessings to his people because he has accomplished what he came to do. So pretty cool, yeah?